Come on in, everyone. Come on in because we are here for a special edition of Married at First Sight Season 18. And we're going to call this the After Party. I know Married at First Sight has the normal after party with Keisha and I Pulliam, but today we're going to have an after party, and it's going to be with me, Deborah. And the topic of conversation today is going to be, what about these couples swap? What about this conversation? Married at First Sight has been teasing all season that there's going to be a couple swap. And I don't know if it's one, I don't know if it's two, we don't know who it is, we don't know anything about it. They've been stringing us along all season long, and I just can't wait to see who it is. I'm so excited to see who it is. I'm now trying to guess who it is. It's like Christmas, y'all, when you be shaking the prize and trying to figure out what's inside. I am so obsessed with trying to figure out who the couple swap is. I know that my first instinct is that David and Madison, of course, hook up. I'm believing that. I'm believing that wholeheartedly right now. We saw a lot of clues last week with David over there sexting a woman whose name began with an M. That's what we know. It wasn't Michelle. We think it was Madison. And so, I even go back. It's starting to make me think about the whole season, y'all. It's starting to make me think about that time when they were on the honeymoon and David was continuously going to the gym to work out with Madison. I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's another clue right there. I'm starting to think about the time when they came back to Chicago after the honeymoons, and the first night back, Madison didn't even want to sleep in her own place. She had to go back and sleep in her own apartment. She didn't want to come sleep at home with Alan. She wanted to go sneak and sleep at her own place. I'm starting to think, oh my goodness, was she over there sleeping with David back then? Did they really hook up in the honeymoon in terms of liking each other? And then they consummated that relationship when they got back to Chicago. That's why Madison don't have no reason to be sleeping with Alan, liking Alan, nothing else, because it looked like she might already be hooked on some David. She might already be hooked on, and it would explain a lot. It would explain the way that Madison is treating Alan, how she's being nice to him, but really not want to do anything more with him, not even really giving the relationship a chance. Because if she started having a liking to David very early on, I could see why she's doing what she's doing. Because remember, David is in a contentious relationship where Michelle was very nasty and mean to him. And if David and Madison are having pillow talk, I would imagine Madison is saying, I don't want to do to Alan what Michelle has been doing to you, but I know we got to see this through. So what I'll do is I'll just be nice to Alan, kind of string him along, just sort of, show up. It's like quiet quitting. It's like how they do at work these days. They show up, but they're really not doing nothing. I'll just do that because I don't want to be Michelle, how Michelle is doing you, David. But we all both know, David, me and you, we're going to be together after this show. So I'm starting to believe that these two have been at this a long time. And that's also why David all of a sudden likes going to the gym so much, because according to his body, do we really believe David was going to the gym a lot prior to Married at First Sight? I don't think we do. There's no evidence of it. In fact, if you guys remember, for his birthday gift, remember he got married on his birthday? For his birthday gift, his brother got him a whole lot of bags of Cheetos. A whole lot of bags of Cheetos. So if you're a person who really watches what you eat and you're always in the gym, why would your brother buy you a whole lot of hot Cheetos and Cheetos? No, we think that the gym was the meeting up point. That's what I'm starting to think. But anyway, what we're also going to talk about is we know the experts have made a mess out of these matches. In fact, I really do believe that behind the scenes, there's a whole nother real matchmaker. And that matchmaker is a person who writes psychological thriller movies. Because when I tell you, if y'all have been watching these episodes with me all season long, one thing I can say is about it almost seems as if whoever matched them up, and I don't think it's Dr. Pepper, Pastor Cal, or Dr. Pia. I think they're just front people. I think they're the people who just sit in front of the cameras. I think behind the scene, there is a Master Oz. Yeah, I'm coming with some conspiracy theories. I really am. Like I said, this is the after party. The after party. And in the after party, we can talk about a whole lot of conspiracy theories. We can hypothesize. We can guess. I can tell you my ideas, and don't none of it have to be true. So don't nobody be mad at me because I don't have no evidence of nothing. None of the stuff I'm saying do I have any evidence of. This is just me talking off the cuff. But I think that behind the scenes, there is a real psychological thriller type doctor who says, I want to pair everybody up with a person who's going to trigger their childhood wounds, their childhood trauma. That's what I believe. Because I'm telling you, now that we've gone through the childhood trauma of everyone, it's like, wow, you paired them up with the very person that's going to trigger their childhood trauma. Like, let's talk about it. First of all, we know David came on here saying all he wanted was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman. Really, that was really his only criteria. I mean, he had some of this other stuff about women, but mostly what was most important to David was a blonde-haired and blue-eyed woman. And we know that David is Puerto Rican. He grew up in a family with a lot of women, a lot of strong Puerto Rican women. And he's like, nope, I don't want none of you guys. I don't want none of you Puerto Rican women. I want a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman. And we were like, okay, David, but why are you so stuck on blonde-haired and blue-eyed women? Come to find out, David says when he was younger, he went to a school with a lot of blonde-haired and blue-eyed women, and none of them liked him. None of them liked him. He wasn't accepted. You know, he was bullied. He was outcast. He didn't fit in. And so he says, when I get older, I'm going to get me a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman and show all you middle school and high school people that I'm good enough. I am good enough for a blonde-haired and blue-eyed woman. And so what do the experts do? The psychological thriller experts, they pair him with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman that don't want him. Another rejection, David. You were paired with the very woman that is triggering your rejection all over again. You experts, y'all is mean. Y'all is really, really, really mean. And then on the flip side, you look at Michelle and you say, Michelle, well, what is Michelle's childhood trauma? Well, we know what it is. She was poor. She basically said she was almost like trailer trash. She was on food stamps. She was on all these things. Her childhood trauma that she never wants to relive again is being poor. Okay. And what do they pair her up with? They pair her up with a man that lives in a basement apartment that has gone belly up in a business that ain't got no money saved. Woo, 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 woo. I mean, come on, the basement apartment, is it too much further than the trailer? It may be different. Some of you are going to say the basement apartment is a lot different from the trailer, but I don't know. On the inside, it wasn't. The inside of that basement apartment didn't look any different than the inside of a trailer. And according to Michelle, it's not far enough from the life of the trailer life. Once again, them experts done these folks wrong. They basically triggered Michelle and said, okay, you trying to get so far away from this small town, trailer living type of lifestyle. You want to be in the big city with high fashion. And what we're going to give you is a man that wears jean shorts and lives in a basement apartment. Triggered, 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 triggered. You wrong, experts. Y'all is wrong. Then what the experts did, they came over here and started messing with Carla and Juan. They said, Carla, what happened in your childhood? Carla says, I've been working since I was 12 years old. How many people do you know that was working at 12 years old? What were y'all doing at 12 years old? I know one thing I wasn't doing. I wasn't doing hair for money. That I can tell you. I was not doing no hair for money. I was not making any type of substantial income at 12 years old. I didn't have any money in my pocket whatsoever. I was broke. But Carla says, no, not me. At 12 years old, I already knew that I had a gift of doing hair. I started doing hair and I was making money at 12 years old. There's a good chance Carla was making more money than her parents. There's a good chance Carla was making more money than her brothers and her sisters. And all I can guess is if I'm around Carla at 12 years old and I'm broke with no money and Carla's over here making money doing hair, there could be some people who are jealous of Carla. There could be a lot of people who are jealous of Carla because Carla says she had a gift since she was young. She was making money since she was 12 years old. She enjoyed it. She was having a good time. But what started happening to Carla was there were a lot of people who were jealous of her and she couldn't fit in. She didn't feel like she was accepted, probably because a bunch of people might have been jealous of her. Carla was probably a good looking girl. She's a good looking girl now. She was probably cute back then too. And so what happened? Carla said, well, I don't want to be special anymore. I don't want to be the girl who makes a lot of money, does hair working at 12 years old with a pocket full of money. I just want to fit in with everybody else. I want to belong to everyone else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale back. I'm going to scale back my business. I'm going to scale back my talent. I'm going to shrink, right? so that I can fit in. And Carla says, I'm going to shrink so that I can fit in. And then what do? How do they trigger Carla? They trigger Carla by giving her a man that says she's lazy. They give her a man who says, you not chasing money, you are lazy. And Carla's like, oh my gosh, in the beginning when I was working so hard and making so much money, I wasn't accepted. So I shrunk myself. I started concentrating on other things, not just making money. And now here they are pairing me with a man who told me I don't think about money enough and I'm lazy and I'm not successful. Triggered. And then on the flip side, guess what? Guess who they paired Juan up with? What's Juan's childhood trauma? He told us that from 6 months years old, he was moved away from his family. He was moved away from the bosom of his mother. His mother might have even still been breastfeeding Juan at 6 months years old, but nope, no more breastfeeding for Juan. You got to go off and live with your aunt. We can't afford to keep you anymore, Juan, because we are broke. And so Juan says as he grows up and he tells himself his 6-year-old self and 12-year-old self and now his 30-something years old self, you can never, ever be broke. You can never, ever be broke again. So what does Juan go out and do? He goes out and gets more jobs than anybody else can have. He does an app business. He's got a metal business. He's got a carpentry business. He's got a regular 9-to-5. Juan got so many jobs because he says, I ain't never, ever going to be broke again. And what do the experts do to trigger him? They give him a woman that quits her job. They give her a woman that says, money ain't all that. And Juan is triggered one more time because ain't no way I can be with a Carla because ain't no way I'm going to be broke again with no Carla. Absolutely, positively not. Triggered. And then we got Eminem. Eminem is well put together. She is flawless. Her makeup is always flawless. Her hair is flawless. Her apartment is flawless. As Ike says, you got a TV in every single room. And let me tell you, the TVs have the best clarity ever. The apartment is spotless. Her office space was spotless. She even does cosmetic surgery on women to make them even flawless. M's life is impeccable. She grew up, her parents probably told her, we know she's from a Nigerian family, you need to grow up, you need to get education, you need to get an associate's degree, you need to get a bachelor's degree, you need to get a master's degree. You don't need to just work for someone 9 to 5. You also need to be an entrepreneur. Achieve. That's what they told Eminem, and she became perfect, darn near perfect. Now, she doesn't consider herself perfect. Of course not, because perfect people always know there's things to work on. Of course not, because people who strive for perfect are always really critical upon themselves. So absolutely, they always know they need to work on things. So she knows she's not perfect. She knows all the things she needs to work on. And thus, she can see all the things that you need to work on too. So Eminem was raised to be an overachiever. She was raised to be perfect, to make no mistakes whatsoever. And who do they give her? They give her a man. They give her a man that is intimidated by all her accomplishments. Wait a minute. What do you say? You mean to tell me Eminem came from family, said, get all these achievements, and then Mary the First goes over here and pairs him with a man who is intimidated by that woman's achievements? Triggered. And then Ike, on the other hand, he hasn't really been able to become anything he wants to be. He really wants to be a musician, but he didn't succeed at it. He really didn't succeed at it. So he's got a little pain behind there. But like I said, the number one trauma behind Ike was that some woman in his past did him wrong. Some woman took advantage of Ike. Some woman controlled Ike to become or do things that he never wanted to do. And now all of a sudden they pair him up with a woman who's trying to give him way too many instructions. Too many instructions. Triggered. And Ike is saying, let me do what I want to do. Let me talk about what I want to talk about. Leave me alone. Woo. He is triggered. And then last but not least, we come with the couple of Camille and Thomas. And we look at Thomas and we can say, what is his childhood trauma? Well, come on. He was given up for adoption. he's biracial, grew up in sort of like maybe a more like a white world or whatever else. And so I'm sure there was times he didn't fit in. I mean, we know the story of people who grew up in a biracial family and or even adopted. Do you ever feel like you fit in? Are you black enough? Are you white enough? I don't even know what Thomas's mother is. Is she black? Is she Hispanic? I have no idea. I know he's biracial. I don't know the ethnic makeup of his biracialness. I can't even remember what he told me. All I know is that I could imagine that as a child, being a twin, trying to have identity even from your own brother, trying to have identity as an adopted child, trying to have identity as a biracial child, I could imagine that there is some trauma behind that. And what do these experts do? They pair him up with a woman who you think, oh, she's biracial too. So you think she would kind of understand his situation, have empathy for his situation. But no, not at all. In fact, that woman also has her own identity crisis. So what does she do? She triggers him and says, yep, you're not black enough. What? You mean to tell me that Thomas has grown up all his life being told that he's not black enough by black people, said he's not white enough by white people, he's not whatever else he is by all these other people. And the one person you would think he'd get an understanding from, another biracial person, that biracial person comes along and says, you're not black enough either. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Trigger, trigger, trigger. Just when you thought you'd find a place for acceptance, she rejects you too. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. But we know where she gets it from. We know where Camille gets it from because we saw her father. Her father said he wanted Camille to be more aggressive in sports. He wanted her to be a sports athlete. He wanted to make sure she was competitive. You know what? He nurtured her more masculine side as well. We also know from Dr. Pepper that Camille was a little bit parentified. I learned that word from Dr. Pepper, that Camille was taking on parent roles sooner than she should have, that she was trying to parent her brothers and sisters, even though they weren't that far in age. She always is over here correcting Thomas. So what do they do to trigger her? They give her a man that's 10 years older than her, who seemingly seems like he can take care of himself, who doesn't need her to parent him. And guess what's going on? He's pushing back on her parenting him. And all she wants to do is parent him. Do this, do that, dress like this, eat like this, talk like this, dress like this, do this, do that. She is over here trying to parent a man that is 10 years older than her. Trigger, 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 trigger. I tell you, these experts are doing some dirty work out here, doing some dirty work. So in this episode of the after party, we just gonna have to work with what we got. We're not gonna go outside and say who these people should be with outside of the show. We're just gonna see that if we are gonna do some couple swapping, who would be the best to couple swap? But we are not going to go over Camille and Thomas because I do not believe that I would even want to venture in that direction, because what I believe is that these two are still together and that they are married. And I don't want to take on the role at all of going into a married couple's life and talking about how they should be with different people. Absolutely not. If I'm going to say anything to that couple, I'm always going to lead with giving them some advice to strengthen their marriage, not telling them to run off and be with someone else. So we will not be doing any couple swapping with Camille and Thomas because I still believe that they are still together. So the first couple we're going to look at the couple swapping with David and Madison. This is the one I think that is actually real and actually going on. And so what I want to look at is I want to say, could they be a couple? Could they make it? Could they make it? Earlier on in the season, I probably would have said no. But as I start to look at the couple and I know what their childhood traumas are, what I want to look at is, do either of them trigger each other's childhood traumas, or do they actually help each other with their childhood traumas? Because if they trigger each other, that could be bad. But if they actually help each other work through and fill some of those holes of their childhood trauma, then that could signal that they could make a good, strong bond. So let's go back to what we know about David. We know that David loves a blonde. He loves a blonde because he wants to be validated by a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman. Well, check. Madison covers that because we know that she's not a natural blonde. We know that she dyes her hair. Her roots are brown. But so what? It's working. She's blonde enough. And we also know that she's got some nice, I think she has blue eyes. I don't know what. But in that category, I'm going to say she actually heals his childhood trauma. She actually plugs in the hole for David where he was missing that. The other part about David is I know that David is used to being around strong women. He's actually used to being around women that take a leadership role because that's what he said. He said he's around that. And I actually want to say that Madison is actually a strong leading woman. She likes to lead. She doesn't mind leading. And so what I want to say is David is comfortable with that. He's not going to have a problem with Michelle wanting to be in the front or calling shots or making decisions because I think that David comes from that. And also we saw that when David was with Michelle, he was willing to take the back seat to that. David is actually comfortable with the woman leading. That's probably why he's sort of like still more like childlike living in the basement apartment because like he said, he's a mama's boy. He is a mama's boy. He does not mind his mama taking the lead in his life in certain things. And so like his mom and dad even said that he needs a woman that's going to lead him around a bit because otherwise David's just going to sit in the basement and eat Cheetos and do stuff he shouldn't be doing with pinball machines and dart machines. So in that respect, I think they'll get along. I mean, we also know that David, when David was asked what he liked to do for fun when he was talking to Michelle, he listed a whole lot of things that Michelle doesn't even like to do. He said he likes to play baseball, he likes to go bowling, he likes to go out drinking at bars and sports bars and things like that. We know that he was a smoker. We know that he loves to cuss. Michelle didn't like none of that, none of that. But wait a minute, look at Madison. Madison is just not a spectator sport fan. She loves to run up and down the field like a linebacker. She likes to play left field, a shortstop, pitcher, catcher, any position she loves to do it in sports. So in that respect, shoot, she and David have a lot of things in common. They both like to go to the gym. I mean, they both love to sport a good side ponytail. Come on now, between Madison and David, they love a good side ponytail because with all that working out that they like to do, I mean, you know, all that sweating and everything, them curls be popping. And so the way I look at it is, you know what, hey, they could sport the side ponytail with the casual workout clothes together all day long. You know, Michelle kept complaining that David always was in these shorts. Well, wait a minute. That's perfect for Madison. That's perfect for Madison. So far, I'm saying things look good. Things look good. I mean, we also know that Michelle loves to drink. I mean, not Michelle. Madison loves to drink. Madison loves to drink. She likes to drink. I mean, David owned a whole bar, y'all. A whole bar. I mean, when we first met Madison, remember she was the one always saying, let's take a shot. She was always the one that had the nice little cheers up, cheers down. She had a whole little speech around it. Guess what? She loves drinking. And you know what? David loves drinking too. He owned a whole bar. I mean, the thing that Madison hated about Alan when it came to drinking was that Alan couldn't hold his liquor. That's what she hated about Alan. Every time Alan drank, he got drunk. He couldn't hold his liquor. She hated that even when Alan drank, he drank too much. He couldn't even drive. And that's why she was mad when he was, you know, trying to drink and drive. But David, he's a responsible drinker. You know, he knows how to hold his liquor. He had a whole bar. So she said, oh, I love David. We can go out drinking and he can still hold his liquor. There you go again. They seem like they have a lot of things in common. Now, when you look at, you know, what has Madison typically wanted? Madison has typically wanted a pretty boy, and she has typically wanted a pretty boy who liked to go to the gym. Well, you know what? Like I said, I don't think David really used to go to the gym a lot, but he does now. He does now. So you know what? Hey, Madison saying, as long as you like to go to the gym now, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Madison tells us that her mama used to act a fool. Her mama drank a lot, didn't know how to hold her liquor, and her mama probably used to cuss a lot. So she used to cussing. She is absolutely used to cussing. We also know that Madison wasn't really parented well from her mother. She didn't get a whole lot of nurturing from her mother. And so, you know what? We know that David's mother is very nurturing. In fact, she is still nurturing a 30-something-year-old man. So there you go. I think Madison would fit in well with the family. She'd be able to go right over there and have a second mom who might nurture some of those old residual trauma she had from her own childhood. Her mom, David's mom, would probably welcome her with open arms. So in a lot of ways, like I said, that actually offers a safe space for some of Madison's childhood trauma when you go on over there. I mean, Madison was not going to really have that much problem stepping over Michelle, or even maybe even stepping on the neck of Allen, because one thing we know about people in sports, they typically sometimes have an attitude: win at all costs. Win at all costs. You really can't think about your opponents in sports. You got to think about winning. Winning is everything. And in this particular situation, I mean, she doesn't really need to have much empathy for Michelle, because Michelle didn't want David at all, but she still was his wife, and she's not feeling too much remorse, probably going over here and not being with Alan. And it looks like David don't give a damn about Alan either. They're both willing to step on the neck of Alan to get to each other. I mean, they really could have saved it for later. Even if they do have a sort of strong bond or liking to each other, they could have waited to after the 8 weeks. They could have done that. But nope, they didn't wait. They didn't wait. Like I said, I believe they actually started fooling around with each other emotionally on the honeymoon. And I think, secondly, it turned physical once they got back to Chicago. That's what I think. I can see these two living down in the basement apartment together. I can see Madison going over there and living with David in that basement apartment where he likes to eat all those hot Cheetos. They got all their favorite activities down there: darts, ping pong tables, pool tables. I mean, Madison don't even have to go out to the sports bar no more. And you know what? Madison is used to sport bar food. And David, he was sick of Michelle trying to eat all this sushi and everything. He's like, bring me the chicken wings, bring me the potato skins, the sweet potato fries, the onion rings. Bring me that kind of food. That's what he's looking to do. So, hey, honestly, everybody, I could see David and Madison having enough things in common that they could give it a run at it. They could give it a go. And a lot of their trauma, they actually wouldn't trigger each other. They would actually heal each other. So, hey, I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if these two have hooked up together. So then you say, well, if I'm going to go ahead and transfer and swap Madison over here with David, that leaves Alan all along. So who should be with Alan? There's only three women left. There's there's Michelle, and there's Carla. So first of all, we got to talk about who Alan is and what his triggers are, because we don't want to put him with a woman who's going to trigger him, right? We already know that he definitely triggered Michelle. So Alan, we know Alan is a peacemaker. He was tired of being pulled in different directions. We know he's sensitive. We know that he's really in tune with his emotional self. He's sort of smooth. He likes a fancy sports car, but he drives a Jaguar. It's not a real masculine car. It's fast. It's nice. It's pretty. But you know what? It's not like he's in a muscle car that's fast. So he's a smooth operator. That's what Alan's trying to be. He's got a white collar job. You know what? He's got a white collar job, that he goes to every single day. We also know that he doesn't always want to express his feelings because he's slow to anger. But once you do anger him, we see that he can be explosive. We can see that he can be passive aggressive, and we can see that he can explode a little bit. So if you think about it, we say, what about Michelle? What about Michelle? Well, Michelle says she wanted herself a light-skinned black dude. So in that respect, I'm going to say that Alan doesn't pass the test for that. He's far from that. I mean, I know he likes Pop Smoke, the rapper. That's who he liked, but I don't think that's going to be enough for Michelle. She probably will like his career. She will probably like his career success. I don't know if he has enough sophistication for her. You see, Michelle wants to live the high life. She wants to live the city girl life. And even though I know Alan lives in the city, or I guess, I don't know, maybe he lives in the suburbs, I'm not sure it's enough. Michelle wants to go to nice restaurants, and she wants to go around. She would love his nice car. I think she would like that. But I don't know. She didn't like David. David was riding around in something that looked like a Camry. Alan has the Jaguar, but I'm not completely sold on this couple. I'm not completely sold that this would be a good swap. I know that Michelle likes a lot of adoration. She likes a lot of compliments. I think Alan would give that to her as well. But I think Michelle has a little bit of nastiness about her. I think even though she can be a bit different, I think there's a little bit of nastiness about Michelle. And I don't think that will go real with Alan, because I think Alan is on the sensitive side. I think Michelle likes to look down on people. She kind of looks down on her family. So I think that will rub Alan the wrong way, because I think Alan is a very down to earth type of guy. And I think Michelle thinks she's all that. And she's not. She's pretty basic. I think that she is pretty basic. So, do I think that Alan could be with the MM? Well, MM says she want a black man. She says she want a black man, and we know one thing about MM is she wants what she wants when she wants it. Just like Ike said, she always wants me to tell her what she want to hear. So MM is a woman that has really pretty much laid out her life exactly the way she wants it to be, and she's just trying to plug in this husband. So could she plug in Alan to her life? Probably not, because like I said, she's sold on the fact that she wants a black man. And one thing about MM that we've seen is that once she's decided what she wants, it's hard to get her off of it. It's hard to get her off of it. So would she even open up her mind to be available to a person like Alan? I don't think so. Alan doesn't have any history of dating a black woman. He said he typically dates European women. I do think they could probably get along with some deep conversation. I think that Alan probably could help MM because he knows how to lead with his emotions, and MM doesn't know how to do that so well. So I think he could probably teach MM how to lead with your emotions. So she could learn a trick or two from him. But I don't know. I think MM is looking for the type of guy where she can allow that guy to lead. And so I think in that respect, she would give Alan the space to lead, give him the space to make decisions because he kind of grew up not being able to decide things for himself or do what he wants to do. So MM says that's the type of guy she wants. The question would be, would she give him room to make those decisions? So once again, I'm not completely sold on them or even this type that they will be a good match. Now we get to my last girl, Carla. I'm thinking, okay, Carla. Carla is a person out here who would love to have a person in her life who could teach her how to fly in the career world. Do I believe that Alan could do that for her? I think so, because I think Alan has had some career success himself. Do I think that Alan would be triggered by the fact that Carla doesn't believe that money is everything? I don't think that he would. He hasn't shown any poverty mindset. We know that Alan has seen both sides of life. He said he grew up with two parents where I think the father had money and the mother didn't have money. So he could see what money could do for your life, but he doesn't seem to be completely obsessed about it. And it doesn't seem like he would judge Carla for the fact that she isn't overly obsessed with money. I also believe that Carla could help heal that part of Alan where Alan felt like he couldn't be in charge. He couldn't make decisions because Carla definitely wants to find a man who wants to take care of her, who wants to lead her, and she's willing to listen and she's willing to learn. So in that respect, I think she could probably help Alan with those two things. I think there's a bit of Carla that Alan might like because he could feel a sense of like he's almost saving her. He's rescuing her because I think there is a part of Alan that likes to do that. He likes to save. He likes to rescue. That's kind of why he didn't work well with Madison, because Madison don't want to be saved. But Carla, on the other hand, she's actually looking for a caretaker, and Alan loves to caretake. So of all the women, I'm going to say that probably if we're going to do a couple swatch, I want to swap. I want to swap and have Carla be with Alan. That's the matchup that I would want to see going forward. I know he said he wants a European woman, but he never said, does he want Eastern European? Carla, I know she's from Mexico. That's not Europe, but let's just say she's from Spain. Let's just say that she's from Spain. And last but not least, we'd have to do with what are we going to do with Juancho? If I send Carla over there with Alan, what are we going to do with Juancho? And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to let Juan go with Michelle. I think it's a good fit. You know why I think it's a good fit? Because Juan likes white women. He sat up here and cried and said he's never found a woman who could understand his immigrant roots. And now that I've seen Juan, I don't think that what he was talking about was understanding his Colombian culture in terms of dancing and salsa and language, because he got all that with Carla and it wasn't enough for him. I think what he was talking about was being able to relate to the fact that he grew up in poverty and that they really, really struggled. And now how he never wants to go back to being poor again. And you know what? That is Michelle's complete story. They would bond on that. They would make a pact with each other. They would say, pinky promise, we are never going to be poor. We're going to work so hard. We're both going to have multiple jobs. We're never, ever going to be poor. And I think they would bond on that. I know Michelle wants a fashionista. She wants to dress in high fashion. She wants to live in the city. Well, look at Juan. He's got an apartment overlooking Soldier Field. He used to be a model. He's used to dressing up in fine clothes. You know what? I'm looking at these two and I'm thinking, hey, you know what? Y'all might be a fit. I mean, Michelle is slow to warm up. Juan is slow to warm up. There you go. You both can be slow to warm up. I know Michelle says she wanted a light-skinned black dude, but shoot. Juan ain't black, but he got color. He a man of color. I think that might be good enough, y'all. I think it could be a go. So if I'm gonna do a couple swap, I'm gonna swap out and do Michelle and Juan. That's what I'm gonna do. So like I said, I'm gonna keep Camille and Thomas together. I'm gonna send Carla over there to be with Alan. I'm gonna send Juan and Michelle to be together, and I'm gonna put David and Madison together. That's my couple swap. What do y'all think down below about who I chose as a couple swap? Do you agree, disagree? And once again, this is just because these are the couples here. And man, of course we could ask them to be with different people out on the street, but this is what we got to work with. This is what we got to work with. Anyway, that's it, y'all. I will talk to you later. Bye.